Well, here we are in Foussard Cave. It's one of the, named Foussard, it's one of the French mushroom growers along Water Street. And this is the entrance to the Candyman system. And as I found out later, I've always known these two paired caves, these two caves in close proximity, the ones of the warring mushroom farmers, as Foussard and Lambert. And somebody at some time since I've been here last dug a connecting tunnel between them and connected Foussard up with Lambert. And those collectively are what is known as Candyman Cave. And that to me is it's kind of funny because for years people have been asking me, where's Candyman Cave? I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. It always sounds like this great new discovery when all it is somebody who didn't know what the original name of the cave was. And if they had properly named it according to the Cold War nomenclature that I'm familiar with from the early 60s, it would have been easy to get a new right where that was. Well, as you can see some of the physical characteristics here, we got this, I'm in the middle of a rebar snake pit, as it's called. And all this rebar and concrete and stuff, this was shoved in here. This is from the, one of the nasty follow-ons from the replacement of the High Bridge in 1985, and they decided to try to eliminate the old mushroom caves by pushing all this debris in here, although it hasn't, judging by all the graffiti in here and YouTube videos, it hasn't been very successful in keeping people out. Nonetheless, I'm going to talk about the so-called mushroom wars when we get to that part of the cave. And I believe this is an important story because the Ramsey County Historical Society has basically canceled me. I had a long-running series in their magazine. It was called the St. Paul Underground. It had been running for 30 years. It was established by Virginia Coons, who is, one of the founding members of the Ramsey County Historical Society. And she thought it was very important. She gave me a special invitation to write this series that has been going on for years. But latterly, what they have decided is that what I'm going to tell you is way too dangerous for you to know. Okay, you can't, this is forbidden knowledge, what I'm going to be talking about. And nobody should know about these caves. And you should all just go home and close your ears and shut your eyes and just ignore it, because they're going to focus on some other things, what they call untold stories. But as I emphasize to them, this is a very untold story, and people should hear it about these caves. And so that's what I'm going to do for you. Here I am in Lambert's Cave at last. I just walked through the connecting link, about 10 feet long, that connecting Foussard Cave back there with Lambert's Cave out here. Somebody dug this helpful connection at some point, and the combined cave then is called Candyman's Cave, I guess, according to the local lore. So we're just going to go check how Lambert Cave has changed over the years. Yeah, well, I'm at the most famous piece of graffiti associated with Candyman Cave. You see it online a lot, walking through the monster's mouth. There's a question like where the name Candyman came from. Was it just because maybe it was like the really colorful graffiti? Another idea is that it was from the 1992 movie. It's a cheap horror flick called Candyman, where there was a giant mural of a head on the wall and people would step through the mouth of it, and just like this. So was that the origin of it? I'm not sure. And then online I've heard speculation about other kinds of theories that I'm not going to go into, that verge on the strange indeed. So with that, I think we'll take a hike back to the so-called Devil's Altar in here and just have a look at that. So now we are at the so-called Devil's Altar in Lambert's Cave, or so some of the old MSS members would call it back in the 1980s. And there was a reason for that. First of all, any kind of passage termination in sandrock that has kind of like a shelf-like spaces where you can put candles, and you can see there are just countless tea candles in little niches along the walls behind me. This must be really magnificent when lit up. We go light all those. But one of the reasons that they call this, it got this reputation, is that back during the 1970s and 1980s, there was something called the Satanic Panic in our nation. And this was triggered by a number of events. There's all kinds of YouTube videos about it out there. But basically the idea was that, people were worshiping Satan. And one of them, one very specific thing, however, even a newspaper article about it, is that children were being dug up in cemeteries in the Twin Cities and brought into caves down. I don't know if it's like this one, but brought into the caves along the Mississippi River here nearby, and carved up in gruesome rituals and that sort of thing. And so these places got like a pretty bad reputation, which is just a farcical premise, but so it was. And so that's why some of the old MSS guys started calling, they'd see this kind of thing, they would call it a devil's altar. It's, very, very colorful, lots of skulls and woebegone faces carved on the walls behind me. Okay, so on the walls of this Devil's Chapel that we're in, inside Lambert's Cave, we came across this invocation or incantation on the wall here to the Queen of Hell and so on. And so this is, this is kind of an example of what I mean. It's kind of hard to read some parts of this incantation, but It's just, you know, gives you the flavor of this special area in the cave.
He's trapped.
Oh, he's on a ledge.
Don't jump.
Hey, come on. Oh, here he goes.
Oh, he can run off my pant leg.
You gotta.
There he goes.
That.
Running away. Bye.
Well, here I am in the great flooded passage of Lambert's cave. Lambert was one of the great early mushroom growers in the city of St. Paul. And, but he got into this fight with another mushroom grower known as Foussard. And we just saw some footage from Foussard's cave. And basically, if you look at a map, what he did was he carved this great looping passage around in the back in the rock and carved around Foussard's cave so that Foussard could not expand his cave anymore. So, you know, if he was, you know, wanted to dig more mushroom growing chambers, he was stuck. Because now Foussard has basically laid down this great looping barrier. And that's what this passage is. So it was, you know, this is what has sometimes been called the Space Wars, because we're talking here about, you know, the internal space of the rock mass. And Foussard only had a limited amount that he was working with because he had been summarily cut off by this barrier that his rival mushroom grower had carved. So I think it's actually, you know, there's a pretty interesting subterranean feud, if you will.
What you got there?
So, yeah, we've encountered some artifacts from the mushroom era in this cave. And you can see here this wood. It's very light, and we're looking for actually something that has some lettering on it that we can, you know, go by. Haven't found anything like that yet, but it's
very cool.
Yeah.
It's got a little slat, so it's all like a milk crate.
Yep.
Compartmentalized.
Yeah. It's got the old mushroom company logo on it. That would be even better.
Cool.
Okay, so we are at the high bridge end of the Lambert Cave in a giant room. I guess it's called the Vault, according to this official graffiti. And you can kind of tell that we are near the high bridge because the size of the debris, the slabs, is just it's this mega debris. This is the largest debris I've seen in these caves. The largest and heaviest chunks of all are kind of stacked up in here, and it makes for very slow going when you're trying to get through here, because on the other side there you could actually come out at Water Street if you could navigate through all this maze of debris. You know, one of the interesting things observations I made as it is coming through here is that I wouldn't call this Mount Rushmore by any means, but there are like quite a few presidential references in here. Actually, starting with Nixon, his earliest kind of graffiti I noticed Nixon is a so-and-so, and but then we have other presidents. We have Bush, see George Bush, George W. Bush mentioned, Obama, and then there are a few Donald Trump graffitis in here. So it's kind of like this, presidential hall or commemoration, and how appropriate among the ruins of this cave. And then just up on the ceiling there, I noticed there was a Jason 1989. Really wanting. There's a good chance that is my old caving buddy Jason Engelhart, who used to go through these caves about that time in the late 80s. That could very easily be his signature. So yeah, I guess we are just going to turn around at this point, and head back through the very much diminished lake. It's the water level in the Lambert Loop has gone down by about a foot from when we were in here last time, and it's you can actually walk most of the way on dry ground, so that's that's a blessing here.
Mm-hmm.